Getting to the south of a map has had its challenges, but none has stood as great as what was in front of the start of this Kenshi video. Continuing the journey to the Fishman Islands, the gang is currently trying to not get killed by a wild Hydra. Similar to the Beak thing, but maybe 100 times stronger, the Hydra wanders the south from group to group and kills literally everything. It can run at I think around 50 miles per hour, so it just zooms from group to group killing them. There's no way we're going to be able to fight this thing. One, because we are not prepared to fight a monster like this, because it would definitely lead to a party wipe, and two, because I'm not a fucking masochist. So to start today's adventure, B01 and his gang will be trying their best to avoid the Hydra. They'll be taking a long way around him and trying to go over to one of the bridges that leads them to the Fishman Island. If you haven't in a while, remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I always love it when you guys do that. In the last video, we had a lot of fun adventuring from Bad Guy City down south into a really bad outpost. The outpost was owned by the Berserkers, so after we raided that place, we went to a slave market just a little bit south, and all just by accident because, well, the slavers tried to attack the gang. We had no choice but to just slaughter the entire outpost of slavers and everyone associated with it. But the gang would make the choice to free a bunch of random slaves that were trapped in the cages, proving there is a good side of evil in their ways. The Hydra luckily ran off after some bone dogs, so the top G's could sneak over to the bridge. Meanwhile, Cat was fucking dead. Okay, well no, he wasn't dead, but he was on his way back to Bad Guy City after he picked up some food, but when I found him, he was literally being looted. I guess two bums must have found him somehow and started picking his pockets and looting him for food. But we lucked out, because bandits in Kenshi won't steal food from your characters as long as that food is inside of a backpack and not in their main inventory. Pretty wacky gameplay fact, yeah, I know. But yeah, there you go. Cat is currently running back to Bad Guy City, that way he can deliver the much needed food to our people and stop their literal starvation. Everyone keeps getting malnourished and losing stats, meanwhile the Sheks don't stop for even a day at a time with the constant raids. Between the Empire and the Shek bandits and the Dust bandits, we constantly got raids at the base, so we need to keep our people in the best condition that we can. The top G's are currently on their way to Fishman Island in order to find both a crab and possibly a fishman. There's also some loot to expect, as somewhere on Fishman Island there's an overran lab which will contain weapons and research. It'll likely be guarded by a lot of fishmen, but as you guys know if you've been watching episodes, we really need to get more research books. Moving into the island, the gang finds a nest of gurglers, and confused to who or what they are, they just enter battle. In the world of Kenshi, you kind of have to be a natural racist. Like, if you haven't seen somebody that looks like that before, like if you look at someone and go, oh, he has a horn sticking out of his head, just fucking attack him, kill him. It's you or them. And it was obvious that the gurglers with their weird fish faces and their fucked up looking bodies, you know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at that and figure out they're going to be the opposite of friendly. So while the gurglers are kind of insane psychopaths who just run around the island killing things, at very least, they are not really strong. With the only downside fighting them being, I believe they can eat you if they kidnap you, they're actually super weak. Within the gurgler groups, there are alpha gurglers who have a lot more health and levels in their stats, so those are the ones we're going to try to want to kidnap. But I figured we'll try to do that on our way out of a Fishman Island. That way we aren't carrying around, you know, a bunch of bodies for the entire episode or end up losing them in an attack. The gang was now running into groups of crabs and fishmen left and right as they got farther and farther into the island. Eventually, the gang would see the silhouette of what appeared to be a ruined city. It looks like fishmen were swarming the place all over the city and all over outside of the city, so the gangsters were going to go there. They figured it'd be a good time to fight maybe 100 or 200 fishmen. But then all of a sudden it started to rain acid. Acid rain damages all non-skeleton party members minute by minute, so their flesh was literally being burned off by the rain. They had to get to shelter and do it fast, but seeing as the Gurgler City was all in ruins, it meant even the gangsters, if they fought their way into the outpost and got into a building, there'll still be no roof above their head because the roofs collapsed. So they'll still burn alive even if we end up taking over the city. Spotted the ancient lab ruin I mentioned earlier, so they decided to run towards it, knowing that would be the only place with a stable roof on the island. That was their only hope. As long as they could get a break from the acid rain, that's all that mattered. I mean, ironically, the acid rain would end up stopping before they even got to the ruin, but I mean, they were deep into their plans, so they had to commit. Entering the lab, they spot one gurgler innocently walking in a ruin, so they fucking kill him. Then going up to the floors above where the king gurgler and his 20 to 30 gurglers are hanging out. A majority of them would all rush to fight our gang on a second floor. The gurglers only managed to knock out Erson, who was one of the slaves we recruited in the last video after the slave camp attack. So he doesn't even fucking count, you know what I mean? in Rowdy, they were no match for the catastrophes. After they handled the grunts, B01 and the rest of the group would go on to fight the Gurgler King and his 3 gurgling henchmen. The king was so terrified of B01, he ran downstairs right away and then picked a fight with Beep, who, let me remind you, has like literal chainsaw arms, so it didn't really make much of a difference in the king's fate. We were able to take him down really fast. A very anticlimactic battle, I know, but the true excitement came from the loot. Alright, I'm talking about high tier weapons, I'm talking about research books, I'm talking about robot limbs, man, I'm talking about fish to stop our slowly dying and starving colony. Easily got near a dozen ancient science research books, as well as some AI cores and a few engineering research. So even though the battle here was pretty lame, I think this is one of the best places to explore early game, especially if you need to advance the technology tree. We now had lots of loot and books and armor, as well as the king gurgler head, which sells for a nice 60k cats. We also have Yumin carrying around a crab from earlier, so once we get home we can recruit it by putting it in a cage and then saying a few magic words. The gang basically just conquered the entirety of the Fishman Islands, and this meant, unfortunately, most of the fishmen were gone. I didn't realize this until I went back to that Fishman city, where I thought we'd be fighting a bunch of fishmen, but unfortunately, some peasants moved in. Like, within the time it took us to kill the king and take his head off, we didn't even get outside, man. They already got their families moved in, pictures of their kids on the wall. Fucking remarkable how fast these people squatted here. Like, I'm genuinely impressed. So on the downside, yeah, we won't be taking a fishman back home to Bad Guy City. I mean, it's pretty bad because we could have too. I ran into a camp of them, but I really wanted to get an alpha fishman. There's no reason to just get a normal fishman when there's alpha ones. Either way though, it must have been around bong o'clock because I forgot to grab a fishman. We really only got a crab out of this, but hey, that's better than nothing. All the gang has to do now is go back home and put him in a cage. First, they'll need to get by that Hydra that was wreaking havoc earlier. There is a second bridge that's a bit farther away from where the Hydra was, so they're gonna go for that one. B01 really wants to fight that thing, but he knows he'll be sending his gang to their death if they fight it in its current state. You'll need to train a lot of skeletons and a lot of people on turrets because there's just no way they're going to be able to melee combat and beat that monster. The top Gs luckily made it past the south border and head up towards the closest city named Catan. They'll be heading back to Bad Guy City, so that means we're going to need to travel all the way through the swamp. Like, the longest possible distance from one edge of the swamp all the way to the other. It was awful, man. What a dreadful time. Now, the bone fields are pretty much just home to, like, weak bandit groups and bone dogs and the Hydra, of course. So the gang would be fighting lots of bone dogs during their journey. Now, I want you guys to listen to this sound. Very rarely, but, you know, it does happen. I'll have somebody comment and ask me, why don't I play the game with game audio? Or why isn't game audio in the videos? I want you guys to listen to this. Alright, that is why. Can you imagine me trying to narrate this shit? Hey, what's up guys? It's your boy Cool Kid Croc here, back in another Kenshi video. Can you fucking imagine? The true highlight of the game comes from me traveling through what is one of my least favorite locations in gaming, the swamp. We didn't even enter the swamp yet, and we already found a group of Shek bandits. They're really nice to be back near home, isn't it? There's beak things around this area too. Okay, this place is screwed. The gangsters really need to stay on guard during this time and as they travel and make sure that nobody gets knocked out or left behind on accident. Trust me, it happens a lot, and with the blood spiders in the swamp, that's the last thing I need right now. On the other hand, there's an even stronger dog in the bone fields, being the boneyard wolf. They're twice as strong as the bone dogs with more stats and higher levels, and the group saw them in the distance fighting a tech hunting desert diver. Just himself, he was fighting 3 of them, and they were giving him no time at all to attack, only block hits and attempt to prevent an inevitable death. Homie was going off, okay? He probably hit like at least 80 defense level before he was knocked out. The Benefields are no place for a noob though. While Fishman Islands proved to be an easy enough spot to train levels, well, minus the acid rain that is, but Benefields are home to the Hydra, who we'll need to both remember to avoid and encounter in the future. The gang was now heading through the swamp, one of the worst experiences in both gaming and swamping. The gang was constantly slowing down or running into enemies, running through water. Like, look at this, man. Does this look like what fun is? This is what hell looks like. There's everything from swamp bandits to blood spiders here, making the swamp a terribly difficult location to travel through. We made it into the swamp outpost named Shark, which is directly in the middle of a swamp by around 2 AM, and the gang still had another half a swamp to get through, so they just have to do it, continuing their journey of running for 6 seconds, followed by slowing down or getting stuck in a pond. They'd be pushing through each obstacle one by one, not giving up. I swear, this is really my least favorite spot in gaming, okay? But after many painful episodes where we've been stuck in a swamp, or having to go through the swamp, alright, I'm just glad we get to do it together. Not just I hate the swamp, I know plenty of other people do too. And that really is impactful, like that's the true light at the end of a tunnel for me. Before leaving the swamp, the group would find a few Thrasher units, a ranged turret type enemy. They're pretty cool, and they come from a mod. Now, it might be cool one day for us to recruit one of these guys, you know, maybe send a bunch of them out at that Hydra. But for now, they have the CPU units, which we really need to go recruit Waldo, and they also sell for 6,000 cats. Either way, they're really useful for us, so I ended up taking 3 of them. Fuck yeah, for the first time in nearly a full in-game week, the gang was home. Since we left in the last episode, it's been many moons since everybody's all been here. So after they all unloaded their inventories and restocked the food barrel, all we had to do now was just build some cages. While we didn't have any fishmen, that's alright because we still got a crab and we can recruit the crab into the gang. We went all the way from the south of the map, back up through the swamp, and then into Bad Guy City. So all we needed to do now was just build a few cages. Then we'd be able to put our crab friend in there, recruit him, and bam! I'm fucking flabbergasted at this point. Are you kidding me, man? Out of all times, for 25% of the Empire of the Sheks to come raid us, it has to be now? Every Shek warrior wants their turn to battle us. Fantastic, isn't that sweet? And so, the battle began. Immediately, the Sheks took down the gang's beloved pets like Ribbit, the Swamp Frog, and Chompy, the Processor unit, as well as a majority of a party going down in no time. On top of this, the crab was now loose. He was just fighting random people and walking away and shit. I was like, no man, like, I was screaming when I was recording this. I can't even describe how rough this was to watch. After bringing it all this way, we can't let it just run away. So Beeb would run up to the crab, and he knocks it out, picks it up, and he drags it into the training house inside of Bad Guy City. There he would drop the crab, and then return to defend the gang's outpost. That's when the Sheks fucking killed Ank. He's dead, no more Ank. Shit's going to hell, even B01 was getting knocked out. There's like a dozen Shek warriors running around Bad Guy City. There was lots of people bleeding out, losing limbs, as well as our beloved Foxbot, who really I didn't play much with yet, and I haven't really mentioned in any episodes. Well, he died as well. That's 2 deaths in like a few in-game hours. The entire gang was hurting bad, with B01 and the others getting up on and off to try to fight off the Sheks. It just wasn't really working out for anyone. It was just getting them knocked out again and even more injured. So I attempt to put everyone on passive, but still, they'd wake up and the Sheks would run back. Luckily, around 2 AM, a majority of the Sheks finally left Bad Guy City so we could start to heal our dying colony. It's been a while since the Sheks have actually beat the gang in a battle, but it really proved their strength this time. On top of that, claiming the lives of 2 gangsters, and the fucking crab was gone. We couldn't even worry about that stuff though, because if we didn't stop everybody from bleeding, it was going to be even more people lost. So by morning time, everybody was healed up and starting to be put in beds, and after doing a count, we were missing like 4 fucking legs on different people, and a few missing arms, so almost a fourth of our gangster group was basically crippled or unable to fight. Alright, the Sheks have really done it this time. B01 is pissed. He just lost 2 gangsters to those bastards, and everyone is missing legs and shit is a mess. Before we could get some limbs though, everybody needed to heal up. It was going to be kind of a far trip, at least one day, because they needed to go to the farther way station in order to buy them. You know, we can't just have people crawling around for more episodes, okay? This is really ghetto. It just looks bad on us. We might be gangsters, but this is still a community for Okran's sake. By nighttime, everybody was feeling much better. Well, other than people literally tweaking out in the corner. Like, come on, guys, I'm trying to make a cool YouTube video. Can you not be fucking juiced off dope, please? Either way, the top G's are ready to head out. The other way station takes a bit to get to, but it isn't as far as most of the cities or places in the game are to Bad Guy City. During this run, B01 and Cat would discuss back and forth whether they should stay in Bad Guy City and fight the Sheks, or flee to a location more north and get away from the savages. While B01 is dead set on trying to claim the land of the east and stand his ground against the Sheks, Cat proves a great point that if they moved up north, they could always go back after they get more situated. So you let me know in the comment section below, what do you guys think? The video isn't over yet, don't fucking leave, okay? I'm just giving y'all a cool way to decide the story a bit. If you guys like this, we'll do it more. On our way to the way station, the gang encountered two separate groups of dust bandits fighting each other. After the gang cleared the Dust King Tower a few episodes ago, and they would take down the Dust King, this would essentially just send the dust bandits into anarchy, with different subgroups popping up. You know, they all got different dusty ideologies and ways of life and ways they want things done. Isn't it crazy though that even after the death of a leader who built an entire bandit faction, you know, a pretty hard-working, respectable guy, his entire faction just crumbles without his guidance and leads to fighting each other until the gangsters find whatever's left and just clean it up. It's a brutal world from physically to mentally. Around 15 o'clock, the gang arrives at a way station, and after the group restocked on a bunch of food, B01 runs into the mechanic shop with 206k cats in his pocket. He's ready to buy the highest quality limbs he can, and so he did. It costing him a little over 100k cats. He would make sure to pick the right limbs out for each character who needed them. B01 got a bunch of specialist grade legs and arms, all for his crippled companions. His crippled companions, jeez, man. But this will make them all a lot stronger than they were before. This will give them more health and potentially higher combat skills. Meanwhile, do you remember Erson, that slave we rescued? Yeah, he was hanging out in the middle of nowhere for some reason. He was like nearly an hour away from Bad Guy City, and he's teaming with dust bandits. Like, this surely wasn't good. Erson's running for his life, but still, the dust bandits are on his trail. He's just barely fast enough to outrun them with his newbie athletic skills. 40 minutes after running, he finally gets to Bad Guy City, and he runs inside, to which the dust bandits are still following him and chasing him. This is because we don't have any guards at the gate yet, so nobody really gives a fuck. Erson runs behind an iron processor and tries to sneak to hide, but it doesn't work, and they turn the corner and attack him. This shit had me dying, bro. This was so funny when I was playing it. Like, one of the best random but favorite moments on my playthrough so far. Back to the gang, they were finishing a battle of their own and marching on their way back home. I swear, all there is over here is like dust bandits. Ever since the tower fell, it's just been more and more of them than ever before. I mean, it's fine because they're weak, but we definitely need to explore and take on some other bandit groups in the future episodes. I fucking hate the dust bandits by now. I'm getting so sick of the dust bandits, man. They fucking suck. Near the end of day 124, the gangsters ran by a nomad animal trader who had a bunch of animals for sale. This reminded me of a few episodes ago where we put a bunch of weapons and stuff inside of Garu backpacks, but we couldn't bring the Garus into cities. This was because the Garus were owned by a friendly faction, so the guards would attack us. Therefore, we had to take the backpacks off the Garus and drop up Garus. But then, we couldn't get into the backpacks anymore, because if we don't have a Garu, there isn't a way to open bags without equipping the backpack to a character first. So we were locked out of maybe 100 to 200k worth of loot, but finally, through this nomad animal trader, we could recruit a little Garu pup who we'd named Trunk. Finally, when we get back home, we'll be able to transport all that stuff from the backpacks to stores and whatnot. I mean, it only took like 2 to 3 episodes, but that's pretty good for a CKC run. At 4 AM on day 125, the gangs return home with lots of food and brand new limbs for their stumpy citizens. But you know what? I did mess up one limb, so someone still doesn't have an arm. You know, got him. It wouldn't be a CKC run if we didn't do that now. There'll just be a one-arm hero until we have another mass decapitation happen and have to buy a bunch in bulk. But lastly, it was time for us to deposit all the research we got from the Fishman Islands. Putting us into a research bench will allow us to unlock tech level 6 and start working towards it, which is the highest level of technology in Kenshi. This will basically open up every building and crafting option to us in the game. But don't worry, I mean, we aren't anywhere close to being done yet. There's still a lot that the gang wants to do and achieve, so video by video we're gonna continue the adventure every Sunday. I hope you guys all enjoyed this episode though. If you didn't already but you made it this far, leave a like, comment, or subscribe. Even if you don't do that stuff, if you just watch the series or my videos, know I appreciate you. You can join my Discord server, Croc's Netherworld, for access to exclusive community events and convos. I'm pretty active in there as well as on my socials, all in the link tree below. Thank you guys for watching though, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.